morning, everyone. The Ranter is back to go through another one of his rambling diatribes of the politics of the day. And like the topic says, derangement abound. Because I spent a week trying to restrain myself as the annoyances and irritations of this president and how he handles our current situation with the coronavirus is unfolding. Now, we've gone through the gambit of misinformation that comes from this guy. And not only this guy, but the people around him. It's weird how he could put together this coronavirus task force, have Mike Pence run it, put a gag order on anyone who has any knowledge or any experience with this sort of thing so they don't go to the press, because Lord knows they wouldn't want to contradict the president by explaining facts when he wants to paint a rosy picture because it's all about politics for him. We see the stock market crash numerous times last week, to which he blames it on the Democratic debate, which happened 2 days after the first two crashes. When, of course, all it really is that people are getting worried and concerned about what's going on with the virus, and so people get depressed at the stock market. They don't want to buy, they don't want to sell, and then the thing tanks. But our president doesn't seem to show that he understands any correlation to his own words, which breeds uncertainty on this particular topic, and how the medical community and the healthcare industry also takes the stock market tank with this. But he's not connecting the dots, or he refuses to connect the dots, or he knows full well those dots are connected, but he doesn't want to tell any of you that. So he'll lie to your face yet again. And as I said in the last time, how naked this contradiction is once we are displayed by it. First, his press conference when he has experts up there, which he contradicts, and they contradict him right back because, no, they have facts, they understand things, and he doesn't want to deal with that. It's frustrating to try to go through our day-to-day life with this thing hanging over us, where trying to go through this calmly and rationally, trying to make sure everyone around you is calmly rational, do a lot of common sense stuff and you'll be fine, tends to go out the window when our leaders are lying to us. And it's no less than that. They are lying to you. They lie to you about how many cases that are in the United States. They lie about the death toll around the world from this, saying that, oh, the number is far lower because I have a hunch. No evidence, just a hunch, because he's the hunch man. Lies that doctors come up to him and go, wow, how did you know this information? And you just have a natural ability about the coronavirus, which is a really specific ability to have. I mean, wow. Oh, you should have been a science expert. Alright, and yeah, doctors come up to him and go, wow, I did not realize you knew this stuff, while he's like on the 19th hole or whatever. So if he has such a natural ability and he just understands the coronavirus, then why was it that he asked, why couldn't you use a flu shot on it? Come on, fucking people. Mike Pence does the correct thing in praising the governor of Washington on how he's handling the coronavirus, because however he is handling it, a part of reassuring the populace is to make sure you have uh, the ability to rely on your leaders to help you get through this, have a little bit of reassurance. And then what does Trump do while he's at the CDC? Oh, no, he's a snake. Uh, whatever Mike said, that's fine, but that guy's a snake. What's wrong with you? And watching that CDC press conference, watching the one doctor over his shoulder have this shocked and terrified look on his face, and that's wow. On everything Trump is spewing out of his mouth. Trump says that if you want to get tested, you can get tested. Our tests are beautiful. What the fuck does that even mean? When Mike Pence admits that we do not have enough tests nationwide. So, again, contradicting his own vice president on this information. One of the galling things is that we have a ship out an hour or so from the port of Oakland that is about to dock. Trump doesn't want any of those people in the United States. Why? Is the reason because he doesn't want to expose more Americans to the coronavirus because there are people on that ship that is exposed? No. He says it at the CDC and his little presser that he likes the numbers where they are, and if those people come, then that will double the numbers. Asshole, they're in American waters. Their numbers are already counted. See, this isn't about the United States. This isn't about the American people getting sick or not. This is about him, his numbers. Love how he stops in the midst of this press conference to ask the Fox News reporter, how's your ratings on this? Or how's his ratings on this? And you people like him? Is this is baked in the cake for you? That this is what you voted for to put him in office? Is he reassuring you? They had, in one of these last rallies, one of these reporters went up to one of these Trump supporters and asked him, what they think about the coronavirus, and she says, oh, well, that's fake news. No one's really dying. No one died. The coronavirus is fake news. Are we cooked up by the media or the Democrats because they're both enemies of the people? When I hear that, that reminds me of Alex Jones scoffing at the kids that got killed in Sandy Hook. That for sake of politics, we're going to deny this even existed. Trump boasts and brags that his rallies are going to be totally safe from the coronavirus. And no one's going to have it. Mr. Brave, right? Okay, Mr. Brave first canceled going to the CDC because somebody at the CDC was suspected to be contracted the coronavirus. So he didn't want to go there. Ooh. But then turns out they tested him and he was negative, so he finally went over there. That's fine. When you hear the explanation from him on that, he has the doctor or his official for the CDC right there, or the guy that's supposed to speak for it. First, he tells the guy to speak. He says this on camera. You tell him. And the guy starts to speak that he was going to go in his stead, and then Trump interrupts him so he can explain it himself. Why does he have people around him? People who could be more articulate and maybe more reassuring as to what's going on, that probably knows what the fuck they're talking about. But no, Mr. Stuttering and Slurring, who, because he's inarticulate, he actually stutters, like unfortunately Joe Biden had to go through, which he made fun of because he's a fucking prick, explains it to himself that they were going to go, but they weren't going to go because someone over there might have the virus, so he wasn't going to go. But now it's not okay, but now they're going to go. Brave. I wonder, had there been any indication that the person that had the coronavirus at CPAC, if they had known beforehand, would brave President King Trump attended CPAC and then, hugged that flag, because that guy could have probably touched the flag. Ted Cruz was in contact with this particular person. So you reckon he's now famously enough since the past day decided that he's going to self-quarantine himself till he gets tested for the coronavirus. You know what? May sound silly, but that's a responsible thing that he's done. And to admit to it. And saying that he's going to go through it. You don't hear anything of the Trump campaign worrying about this. The Trump campaign has been on a campaign to say that the coronavirus is contained, coronavirus is contained, coronavirus is contained. We have enough tests. Our tests are beautifuls. The numbers are going to go down. The numbers are going up. He's lying to you. Why doesn't he let the people speak for themselves that are knowledgeable, that are in his administration? And if not the knowledgeable ones, let Mike Pence speak. Because even Mike Pence at some point had to admit the truth that we don't have enough tests. To which Trump has to come out and lie and say, oh no, we have all the tests. You can get a test if you want a test. They're beautiful tests. You know what keeps people calm? Certainty. Inaccurate information. We're getting neither from this. And what we know and what we don't know about this, that is always up in the air now. Where it's spreading, where it's going, who's getting it. And if you don't think that people are not remaining calm on this, then try not to look at any articles or any interviews, especially on Fox News, where there's one, their poor guy is on that frickin' boat, and he's quarantined, and he's stuck on that boat, but his family at home is getting death threats because he contracted coronavirus. What the hell do they have to do with this? But they're going to send them death threats? Other people are getting similar threats from that. Rationality. And from what we surmise is that, if you do some simple precautionary measures, constantly wash your hands, don't get into full physical contact with anybody, hand sanitize once in a while, don't do it too much because that can actually ruin the natural defenses of your own hands because you're just wearing it away with alcohol. And even if you do contract it, if you're not an elderly person or if you do not have an impaired immune system, yeah, sure, you can ride out the symptoms and then eventually you might be fine after a while. Still not going to be a picnic for you. But the thing is that even if it's not bothering you fatally, you are now a carrier and you now can spread it. There was a guy who was under quarantine who decided to blow his quarantine to go to an event in Dartmouth. What, he just thought that he just had cold symptoms and that wouldn't be so bad? For me, I am more worried less upon me contracting this and fearing some fatal conclusion out of it for myself, but worrying because the retail that I work, that I could be inadvertently responsible in getting other people sick. And that's the thing. I mean, you have to look beyond yourself. You have to look at how this is going to affect anybody around you. There are people cracking jokes on this. Matt Gaetz, when they were voting on the package for the coronavirus, went in wearing a fucking gas mask. Well, guess what, Matt? How dare you share my name? You're no gift from God, you piece of shit. Matt? One of your own constituents died from it. You still DUI boy, Trump boy, you're still gonna be cracking jokes about this? You can get some, or you're gonna try to flip the script and be a little bit more moral, be moralistic about it, and probably blame Democrats for hyping it, which is another thing your buddy Trump is doing. I mean, on Twitter today, this morning, talking about the fake news and Democrats overblowing the coronavirus. You don't overblow something when you yourself are lying about the numbers of how many people got contracted with it. And you can see the exponential growth of the lie in comparison to the actual numbers of people that were contracting this. Now, people been comparing coronavirus to other illnesses to try to, positively, let's say, to calm nerves, which is cool. It's not, we'll not throw shade on that. But the other thing is that when the people who use it just like to say this is no big deal. Bringing out how many people died on the flu already this year, like 160 or so cases of death concerning the flu, and people are just comparing and contrasting so they can throw away the worry about the coronavirus. Here's the thing: in a space of 1 week in the United States, we had 1 death, 12 cases, 19 deaths by the end of the week, over 200 plus cases. This is relatively new, especially in the United States. So we can't quite compare and contrast. There's an article floating around how Trump doesn't understand, didn't realize that people died from the flu. His own grandfather died from the flu. I guess they didn't tell him that, or he doesn't care about other human beings, even those in his own family. And then Mr. Super Genius, stable genius with a very good brain, how people were marveling as how could he possibly know so much about the coronavirus? How could he understand this? He asked why they can't use a flu shot to cure it. This is the same guy that asks, why can't you throw nuclear weapons into hurricanes to destabilize them? Sure, that question was asked before. Yeah, that was asked in the 50s. When nuclear power and nuclear weapons was still in its infancy, they asked the scientists, well, can we use that for that? And the scientists said, no. And that no seemed to survive scrutiny for 70 plus years of us having nuclear power. But super duper genius, the last king of Israel, I guess he didn't get that memo. Or that memo didn't have the name Trump in bold with a highlighter and sprinkles on it to make sure he actually reads something, because Lord knows he can only read things that has his name on it and praises him. Yeah, this is derangement talking. Because there's every reason to bring this up, and there's every reason to complain about it, because it's not just about him. Life isn't going to get instantly better when Trump is out of the White House. See, let's pop that bubble immediately, because it's not just about him. Anyone else around him that has enabled him, that has hung on his coattails, that think they're going to ride out his own lunacy, or they find success in how he does it, so they're going to do it themselves, all that needs to be defeated with Trump in the election. To either go backwards, which we can't do, or move forwards beyond this, take this as a chunk of experience, knowing that, worst case scenarios do happen, and assholery and scumbaggery does happen, even in our enlightened civilization. Other things that pissed me off with this guy, that he went did the tour in Tennessee over the tornado damage. So he went and overviewed that, which is cool. Every president does that. So cookie, yay. I guess there wasn't anyone with coronavirus in there, so he didn't take a powder. He marveled at a story about an 8-year-old boy that got picked up by the tornado and sent flying a couple blocks down the road. He was so amazed by the story. Wow, that's amazing. And then when he's told that that boy's family, his mother, his father, and his sister had died in that storm, he did not have the humanity in him to even say, oh. He went right on trucking with this story about it was amazing how that boy got picked up by a tornado and deposited a few blocks down the road. Because let's not be a Debbie Downer and talk about the family of the kid, right? Just don't put anything in context. No, don't bring that up. I was trying to tell you this amazing story about this boy that went up in a tornado. That is what we're dealing with in this White House. That's why it's infuriating how people who are opposed to this president, who runs for presidency, to get rid of him and to be a president themselves and hope by God they have a fucking plan in their head themselves to being president, are getting bogged down in this bullshit with the DNC, with Bernie Sanders, with Joe Biden, with the Democratic Socialists, that is not going to show unity by the end of this thing. I don't know. I don't know. Just randomly throwing that out there. I do not understand. Maybe it's that derangement that I'm not understanding this. How people can back this guy. There was one of these press conferences, when he was sitting at the desk, and they asked him about it, about the coronavirus. And he talked about they had plans. They had these great plans, these amazing plans, these very exciting plans. He talked and said nothing. He said nothing. He didn't explain what those plans were. He didn't know when these monolithic, mythical plans was going to be enacted. He said nothing. In so many words. And how many of you just bobbed your heads and nodded in approval? Oh, he nailed that. Is it that he was able to put words together into a cohesive sentence and it's like, oh, he needs a cookie because he did so well? I want to understand where you see a positive outlook in this. And originally, I did not lay the responsibility or the blame of coronavirus on Donald Trump because in reality, it's not his fault. But that caveat ends at this response. While he and his administration lies about the number of cases, number of deaths, blaming Democrats, blaming the media for the messaging, for depressing people by making people scared because they're telling the fucking truth. For someone in my area, past few days has been the gasp. 2 to 3 days ago, 3 cases of coronavirus was found in Montgomery, Maryland. There you go. First case showed up in DC. First case showed up in Northern Virginia, where I am. Now 2 more cases sprouted up in DC today. You're containing nothing. Your understanding of this is non-existent, at least on the political side. I'm sure the doctors and scientists at the CDC understand this very well, but since you want to contradict them and say, oh, we're going to have a vaccine in no time flat, at least 6 months, and they're saying, no, it's going to take at least a year. They need to get a handle on how to figure out how this gets started, how this runs its course. You know, what are the symptoms? Who is more susceptible? I mean, you get the vague notion that obviously the elderly and those who have damaged immune system are the ones that are most susceptible. But, you know, how it's contracted, how it's passed along. There are different varieties of this. This is the 19th version, apparently, of the coronavirus. There were places like Israel and Japan that were they're already on a working model of a vaccine, while we, the United States, the supreme superpower, anointed by God, we're nowhere near any of that. And Donald Trump has the audacity to blame Barack Obama for the response of the coronavirus. Blames him for what? The lack of funding at the CDC? Or any of these other medical institutions that should have been funded from day one and should have never had their funding threatened at all? That had the task force for pandemic cases, something like the coronavirus, to be disbanded? Is that Obama's fault? How is it that a person who's not been in office for over 3 years is to blame for something 3 years later? Is this what you're going to sell to your supporters when you go to your next rally? Or if you are going to go to your next rally? Is, you know, open air, all those people all tightly packed together as they walk and get herded into whatever stadium or theater you're going to have your rally at? Are you going to trust that there's not going to be someone there who is asymptomatic but less a carrier? Because remember, from what little we understand of this, when you contract this, you feel nothing at the start. And when you start feeling something, it feels like a cold. So that's weeks of you not knowing you actually have something. And in those weeks, you traveling around the world or your local vicinity, block away, mile away, 10 miles, 20 miles. See into the paper, oh, a rally's going to be there. Trump is going to be there. Oh, I'm going to go there. I'm going to stand packedly in line with other people, other like-minded people. Maybe we're going to be gregariously happy that we're going to be herded together like lemmings to go and watch our favorite dancing bear entertain us with his bullshit. Maybe high-fiving, shaking hands, hugging. 1 case, 2 case, 3 case, 4 case, 5 case, 6 case, 7 case. You think he's going to show up for that? Who apparently is a germaphobe? Or maybe it would because it wants to perpetuate the lie in the image. And it's because perception is reality as opposed to reality. Just living the dream is fall fun and games until you wake up. Coronavirus doesn't have to be the plague of 2020. It does not. It does not have to be a massive crisis. It should always be respected. It should never be downplayed. No piece of shit should be walking around in a gas mask to mock people's worry. It never should be overplayed as if we're all going to die, and then have mass panic, and then threaten the lives of people who are already suffering the symptoms of it, or threatening their families. What we don't need is uncertainty. What we don't need is someone contradicting experts who actually are in the field, who knows what the fuck they're talking about, because you want to look big and bad, and you want people's support, and it's an election year, so everyone just wonders why, how, I know so much. You don't know shit. And people will bob their heads, and clap, and be fucking entertained, perpetuating your lies, trying to find some positivity out of this when there was none to be had. And when the point is that you can't defend someone like this that you support and you nonetheless support, instead of acknowledging that, you go after the people who point it out, and you dismiss them, shrug it off like it's just derangement. It's just people just, from day one was against Trump. Was against Trump from day one. You know what? People were against Obama day one. There was a documentary talking about the 2008 election where grown men were crying at the thought of an N in the White House. Grown fucking men. That it didn't take long for Obama. He didn't have a nice honeymoon period, as you're all complaining that Trump never had a honeymoon period. Because as soon as a month in, people were saying, oh, he's a socialist. Obama. As corporate as they come, is a socialist. Yeah. And anything else under the sun, including not being American, which your boy Trump made his political career with his birtherism. I don't care who fucking started that. He perpetuated it and made it his own. You're damn right people were against Trump from day one, that weren't giving him a chance. Because why would you give someone a chance who on day one of his campaign talked about Mexico sending their people who were rapists and murderers and drug dealers? How would you give a chance to someone who physically mocks a disabled reporter, who insults a Gold Star family, saying because they're Muslim, maybe the mother couldn't speak because she wasn't allowed to? I know that plays for some of you. That's great. That's funny. He's saying what we're thinking. And the reasons why you didn't say what you were thinking before him, because you were ashamed of your thoughts. You knew they were socially unacceptable in our former day and age. That you kept yourself in your own little groups, your little like-minded little echo chambers, and you just then you'll nod at each other when you say your horrible shit that you wouldn't say out in public, or you hide behind your Beth Bath and Beyond wardrobe with the little eye holes. Well, he says it, and all of a sudden we're condoning this behavior. As I said, coronavirus doesn't need to be the plague of 2020, at least in the United States. You're looking at the reactions of other countries. Italy is pretty much shutting its country down with massive quarantines, shutting down social events, social gatherings, putting at least northern Italy on hardcore lockdown over this. We have seen illnesses come through here in the past 10, 20 years. H1N1, to swine flu, to bird flu, to SARS, to Zika. And one thing always stands, is that you have accurate information, you calmly and rationally explain the matters, people take the proper precautions, and these things come and go. We are not getting that here. We citizens run the risk of perpetuating misinformation on ourselves because we are not getting what we should be getting from the top. And we do want to help each other. We don't want people to be scared. We don't want to inadvertently harm somebody with some bullshit advice. We don't know better. You know, a week or so ago, they talked about the testing kits. How in the United States, they were able to produce maybe up to 75,000, I believe, where we need at least 750,000. And our president wants to dick around with politics. He worries about how this looks to him, how the ratings are going for him, how he doesn't want people on a cruise ship, stuck on a cruise ship, to come back to port. And no matter if these people immediately get taken off and immediately sent to quarantine, immediately kept away from other people, he doesn't want them back because he doesn't want those numbers added to the numbers that are already tallied. Now that's multiple times on multiple topics concerning this guy. Where the fuck is the humanity? Where's the fuck is the empathy? You want to question Joe Biden's mental and emotional state of being? I do that. That's fine. I think unfortunately he is in decline because of his age. But you don't want to ask that of Donald Trump? You don't want to ask why he ducks and dodges getting examined by actual doctors who won't say jokingly that he has such good genes that he'll live to see 200? That the guy now says that Trump somehow has less, Trump gets less sleep than he does. Yes, he seems so much more healthy than he is. You're a doctor, man. What the hell's wrong with you? The weird thing is, Trump is in that age range. And no matter who's going to claim that he is as healthy as it is, take a look at the guy. He is at the right age and he's in the right condition to be at most susceptible. I believe he should be one of those who should cut the politics, cut the bullshit, advocate for the CDC to get as much as they can, advocate for the producers of these test kits to work overtime, reach out to our foreign friends in countries that we have alliances with. Look into what Israel is doing. Look into what Japan is doing. Stop worrying about numbers. Stop worrying about politics. Stop going on Twitter and bullshitting about Democrats and the media. You shut your fucking son up and say that Democrats wants millions to die just for them to blame Donald Trump. Fuck you. I said this a couple of videos ago. I don't care if you have selfish motivations. If you do the right thing and you get a political win out of it, fine. In terms of our lives, that's fine. But no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do the right thing, right? No, because that's not theatrical. So we're going to continue to contradict your own experts. You're going to contradict your own vice president that you put in charge, who, let's face it, has his own history with the healthcare system in his state, where he just sort of didn't happen to notice that the HIV sprung up in one of his communities, or he didn't react fast enough. He tried to pray it away. I don't know what the fuck that is. But even he, in the face of overwhelming evidence that shit is not as what the president perceives, Mike Pence does come out and, you know, does show the empathy that he is disturbed by all this and says, yeah, we don't have enough test kits. I don't blame Mike Pence. He didn't the one that didn't prevented us from making more test kits. I wouldn't blame Donald Trump too. But the problem that I would blame him on is not telling us the reality of this. You don't have enough? Okay, get that. Make more. Don't blame anybody. We won't blame you. We won't blame anybody else. Stop blaming everybody else, because then we will start blaming you. Because you are playing fucking politics with people's lives. And sure, the majority of us, even if we contract it, will ride it out. Yeah. Tell that to the 19 who died. Oops. I guess you were in the unlucky percentile. Crack jokes about it. Downplay it. Don't tell us the correct numbers. Because you don't want to look bad. You look bad from day one. That's not going to change. Should Democrats use this? Absolutely not. And I agree with anyone that points out that Democrats are using this from a political point of view. I agree with that. They should not. Fuck them. They should show concern, absolutely. They should not ignore the subject, absolutely. But there's a thing about respecting this illness that involves you not downplaying it and not overplaying it. And not using it as a political football. And yet, after all this, Donald Trump can win election again. Those of us, that is, not in favor of that, it's amazing, it's incredible, that after 3 years of showing you who he is, people will still go for that. This is the Democrats' race to lose. Maybe there was somebody in the DNC, I've said this a few times, maybe there are people who sees Trump as such a foil for their fundraising that, yeah, they'll sabotage shit for Bernie Sanders. They'll turn a blind eye to the nonsense that he's saying about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma and all that fucking moron nonsense, just because they want to keep Trump in the White House. Why? So they can complain about Trump and then raise money off of Trump. We have a cynical nature in our country. There are people like that. There's a saying on my mother's side of the family, and the nationality of our Irish side, that says, I'm Irish. I could deal with something being wrong for the rest of my life. And that seems to be the mentality. You know, we know something is wrong. We're not going to fix it. We're just going to deal with it. We're just going to live with it for the rest of our lives every single day. Instead of fixing it. Instead of ending it. These people, if they exist, if these cynical people exist that just look at the balance sheet of fundraising on complaining about and bitching about Donald Trump, that sees him as not only the gold pig but a cash cow, they're doing the same thing. They know it's wrong. They know he's wrong. You know, the point of his success is how he's being enabled. And he's only successful because people don't rise up and stop it. There are people who are so sycophantic to him, especially on the government angle, that you almost believe they want him to turn dictator because they prostrate themselves so much for him that they won't get another job after him. No one's going to respect them because they've lost their personal respect. They're Donald Trump's boys and girls. How can you expect integrity out of that? When their dear leader tells them the sun comes up at midnight and they try to convince you that that's true. Alright, that's enough ranting and raving for now. My derangement is satisfied. But I'll be back for this. I'll be back for more of this. As long as he's in the White House. If it ends this year, if it ends in 2024, I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. The ranter rants because the urge to rant is always rising. You'll have a good day. Try to stay safe. Try to stay healthy. Care about everybody, yourself, and those around you. And look what I did for the cause. Because they say that being bearded also helps spread the coronavirus. So, whatever. I still make 41 look